Good morning. Welcome to the Community Review on Hot 92.3. I'm Josefa Salinas, your host. It is my pleasure to have back in the room with me a couple of gentlemen who are helping me help you. If you work for a nonprofit, if you want, maybe you're thinking about starting a nonprofit, or you're started the process of a nonprofit based on our first two shows, since this is number 3. This is information that you've absolutely got to have. And it's not like there's a, Nonprofit 101 book out there. A lot of times people make mistakes. They stumble, they fall, they get misled by people who go, come on over here for $2,000. I can get it all done for you. And you find out 6 months later that you don't really have it all done because it wasn't done right. The nonprofit world is a very, very, very delicate place to be. Why? Because there's so many people taking advantage of it that the government has decided that they're going to put the clamps down. So there's now 5 organizations that you have to make reports to. Every year used to just be you send something off to the IRS, and some of us didn't even have to do that. I found out the hard way. Thought I didn't have to send off something to the IRS till I got that nasty little letter saying, hey, we haven't heard from you, and now we're not happy. And I'm looking at my letter from them that says you don't have to call us. And I'm thinking, okay, where's the miscommunication? Well, it's because there was a new rule that nobody told me about. So you need people that can help you with the new rules, the old rules, the rules, how to walk down the path of nonprofit. And so, again, I'm bringing on air with me Norm and Gatanga from the Nonprofit Development Alliance. FixMyNonprofit.com is the easy way to remember their website. Good morning, gentlemen, and welcome back for part 3 in our series.
Morning.
Pleasure to be back.
I've gotten such great feedback from people who have said, oh my gosh, I can't believe you don't know how much we needed this. I didn't even know that there were new rules. Now I've got to find out what they are because clearly we're in violation. And a lot of times with these organizations, would you say there were 60,000 nonprofits that are on the verge possibly of losing their status?
In the state of California, there's 35,000 that have been revoked, which is about 22% of all the nonprofits nationwide. We're pushing almost 300,000 nationwide. So you figure 1 out of every 4 is doing it wrong or not doing it at all.
Yeah, this is very true. What is happening is the rules that the IRS and other government agencies put together. The government is very good at putting the rules together, but it is up to you to find where those rules are.
That's the amazing thing to me is they'll make a new rule, but they don't go through the trouble of telling you because they're like, well, you should have come to us to find out.
You should find them yourself.
The challenge is, too, is that, a lot of these nonprofits are, as we talked about in past shows, the shoebox nonprofits, the ones that are run by volunteers. They don't have professional staff or guidance. And so the problem has been is that for years they were invisible. They were under the radar. They weren't even in the same room as the radar as far as the government went. So what happened is that when they changed the rules, they said suddenly as of this particular point in time, you now have to file. And so they sent letters out. But you know as well as I do, Josefa, that when someone gets a letter from the IRS or from any government agency, they have 1 of 3 actions. They're fearful and they put it to the side and they don't want to deal with it, or they just kind of delay it because I'll get to it later, or else they give it to someone else. So in many, many cases, a lot of these organizations did not even realize that this affected them. And so what they did is they just sat on it and they sat on it, and next thing you know, they were revoked, and now they're having to be reactive where it was such an easy fix. Had they just known the rules, had they just investigated it initially, they would have been able to circumvent this whole irritating process.
Well, I was one of those people because, in my IRS letter saying, yes, you're a nonprofit, it said you do not have to file a tax return. So when I get this letter, I think, doesn't pertain to me. They must have just sent a form letter out to everybody to just blanket everybody. I'm looking at my letter that says I don't have to file a tax return, so this can't possibly pertain to me. Trash.
Well, that's what I love about this conversation because, you aren't just talking about a work of fiction here. You're talking about something that went through yourself. And so, for all the people who are listening right here, you have the voice of experience who has been with a nonprofit for how many, 15 years you've had your organization?
15,
So, you're the first case person to be able to really look at this and be able to identify with all those folks out there who have similarly been confused and been blindsided by this whole situation that has happened.
Right. And for 15 years, I've been kind of doing, even though I have done really huge things, it's still kind of shoebox because I haven't really generated money for everything. And I kind of just, when I see a situation, I'm like, oh gosh, how can I make this happen? Well, let me go over here and get this. Let me get this. And let me try to make this happen for these people and just do it. And now, because I'm at that stage where I really want to take my life to a different level, I'm ready to take my organization to a different level and become not the shoebox nonprofit, because it wasn't a shoebox. That was a very, very nice shoebox. Okay.
Did you pay yourself a significant salary?
No.
Don't you think it would be awesome if you were paid a significant salary for doing something you love to do and be able to, instead of having all those volunteers, pay them too?
Absolutely. And that's one of the things and one of the reasons why it was so important for me to have you guys here, because I knew if I didn't know how to do this, I can just imagine, and I have so many resources at my fingertips, that there have to be other people out there who are equally as passionate about what they believe in and what they want to do, and maybe they're being misled, or maybe they just don't know how to take it to the next level. I want to take it to the next level, so that's one of the things we're doing here. We're using me as a case study, and we're going to take me to the next level through these series of shows. So we've already determined that you've got to report to 5 different agencies now. So wake up, everybody. It's not just that IRS that you're sending a letter to. Katanga, help me out here. It's the IRS, the Franchise Tax Board.
The Franchise Tax Board, the Board of Equalization, because once you are involved with the project, you are going to do some fundraising. And if you are going to do some fundraising, did you know the Board of Equalization want to talk to you? That's the next one. Then there's the Attorney General's office, the Registry of Charitable Trust, Registry of Charitable Trust. And then there is another one we call the Assessor's office. They issue property exemption credits if you own a nonprofit. That's a benefit to you that nobody knows.
Nobody's taking advantage of the benefit because they don't know about it.
So not only, it doesn't have to be that you are paying taxes. Shouldn't you get what you deserve to?
That's absolutely right. So those are the 5 organizations that, lo and behold, want to hear from you every year. And now they're actually sending out letters. Like, I got one from Kamala Harris, like, hey, you're over here doing this. I'm like, what the heck? Since when did the Attorney General want to talk to Heritage Begins Within? But sure enough, and I believe that was a blanket letter that went out to every single person. And if you don't respond, then you get in trouble.
Well, you know, I have to give you kudos because after the last show we did, which talked about the initial stages, we got several emails and communications from people who were starting a nonprofit. And I was commending them for being forward-thinking enough to say, I need help now. Because don't you agree, Gatanga? It's a lot easier to create something properly from the beginning as opposed to fixing something that's already broken or damaged.
I always tell them, because I've done taxes for so many years, and in this situation, I always tell them I have 2 types of clients: the proactive ones and the reactive ones. So it costs money if you are reactive because you are now trying to clean up. The proactive ones, just like in medicine we hear, prevention is better than cure. So I teach them that when you are reactive, it's like you need a plumber because the toilet is all leaking. It's going to cost you more. So those who come ahead of time, they pay way, way, way less to professionals than those come after the mess is done. So we all know that's how life is.
Right, most definitely.
And there's nothing different from nonprofit.
Absolutely. And coming up later this morning, you're going to hear from someone who's going to talk about the fact that, yes, his situation was not good. And Gatanga helped him in a very short period of time. So you can actually hear from someone. Unfortunately, he was in a reactive situation. But there is a solution. Generally speaking, there's a solution out there. Okay, so this is where we are in our shows. We've already told you how to start your nonprofit. You've filled out all the paperwork. You've done the things you need to do. You've incorporated first because you have to be a corporation before you can be a nonprofit. But being a corporation does not make you a nonprofit. You can be a corporation all day long. If the IRS doesn't say you're a nonprofit, you're not a nonprofit. Plain and simple. So now you've got the letter. Yippee! It's coming in the mail. You are a nonprofit. Congratulations. You are now a 501c3 or 501c9 or whatever the C number is that they've decided to give to you. You're a 501. You're excited. Now what are you going to do? The very first thing that we need to do at this point is what? Let's start from there.
The next step is to sit down and ask yourself, why did I start it? Did I start it because I have a passion, or did I actually start it because I want to help the community? If you started it because you just have a passion, you just enjoy, it could end up a hobby. So you just help one dog, you rescue one dog, then you're happy. Doesn't matter. But if you have impact in the community, the next step is to prepare you for who I call the boss in the nonprofit. Guess who the boss is? The boss is the one who writes you a check, okay? The little old lady that sends you a check, that's your boss. You have to ask yourself, What does she want me to do with her money? Okay. The boss is the foundation that may write you a check for $1 million. Do you know what? They have rules. So it's to sit down and decide, how far do you want to go? How much do you want to do? Once you make a decision, then you prepare yourself for the boss.
And, one of the things that a lot of people who start a nonprofit right away go towards is grants. They think, okay, I'm going to go get a government grant or get a grant from a bank or some large organization, where the reality of it is that's probably $1 out of $4 that's generated in the nonprofit world. Most of your money, ladies and gentlemen, is going to be coming from individual donors. So it's not just one boss that you have. It's in many cases several hundreds or several thousand bosses. So the question is that what are you going to give them that makes them feel that you've done more than just take their money and not give them any return on the investment? And a lot of people who start a nonprofit don't realize that the donors and the foundations are looking for an ROI, or return on the investment. They aren't looking for monetary compensation. They're looking for, as Gatonga said, impact. What is the impact that you are trying to generate in the community? Who are you trying to help? How many?
So let's go step by step here. And I'm going to look at my organization. I'm incorporated and I've got my letter. I've got to decide, somebody has to run it. Now, this is my baby because I thought it up. I'm the one that applied and I have the letter. What position can I hold? Or what position should I hold? And how do I determine what position I might be best in my organization? Because what are the positions?
Okay, and let me just say it right from the beginning. Start thinking about getting professional help, please. That's the beginning. Now, let's say you have approached me. You have decided you're going to be proactive. You're going to get professional help. Here's what I'm going to help you decide. Did you want a career out of this? Okay, then I'm going to let you know right there. You are an executive director. Every grant knows that there must be an executive director if the mission is going to be carried properly. And they are more than happy to pay. There's another client I have who was not interested with a career. That one, I say, I'm going to put you in a different column. That column is called chairman of the board. Okay. One wanted a career. The other one could care less about career.
Just wanted to be a part of it.
Therefore, I'm going to give you the language.
Right.
Based on what you want out of life.
It's like the equivalency of a spiritual leader versus the real leader, because a lot of people really aren't qualified to be an executive director because maybe they're thinking more with their heart as opposed with their head. And so we find is that a lot of organizations out there, they think that the person who founds it should be the executive director. And sometimes that's the case, but in many cases, that's not really the reality. They really aren't qualified. For instance, as I mentioned earlier, when we had our last interview, we had some people who sent us an email or had a conversation, and they said, well, I just started my nonprofit, and they said, what should I be doing next? And I said, who's doing this with you? And what do you think most of them responded with? Most of them said, I'm doing this by myself. So they're basically starting with a brand new flesh slate, which is good. So now they have to decide, as Gatonga just said, do they want to be known as the chairman of the board? They just want to be on the board? Do they want to be the spiritual leader? Or do they want to be the one that's actually carrying the torch and putting together the plan and implementing all these steps? Because you don't win by yourself, you don't lose by yourself. So having a properly structured board and guidance is absolutely critical. And unfortunately, most of them that we have seen, most boards are not functioning up to operation speed at all.
So what we need to do, we need to decide, number one, what our purpose is. That would be our mission statement.
Correct. Why are you interested in doing it as a career? That number one. You know where I send most of my clients? SCORE, Service Corps or Retired Executives. And what is it made of? It's made of retired generals of army, retired president of colleges, retired president of banks, retired CPAs, retired lawyers.
Oh, SCORE. Yes, I have heard of this.
It's operated by the SBA.
Yes.
It's because when you get people like that, they understand all the potholes that any business has gone through. First of all, money is not their problem. Power is not their problem. Most of them are retired. Many of them won't live a long time. Guess what they're interested in when they see you? To leave a legacy.
You know, there's a couple.
Guess what? They become the best board member because you never have to worry they're going to fire you. In fact, they are nurturing you so they can leave a legacy. Those could be some of the best board members to have. Not somebody young like me, a peacock who is going to come and looking for power. No, you don't want that.
You know, a couple of caveats to keep in mind is that a lot of people, when they start an organization, the first place they look to is their family and their friends, which is probably the last place that they should go to, because they're doing it more on personality rather than do these people really bring something advantageous to the board. You also want to try to shy away from those who are looking to do it simply because it looks good on their resume. There's a lot of professionals who say, oh, I'm on this board and that board and several other boards, and they're members of the board in name only. So those are people that you want to try to avoid having on your board. You want someone who's engaged with what you do, who's not just doing it for ego, who's not just doing it because they feel that they owe you as a friend, like in order for Josefa to start her board, they feel that they're obligated to help you. You don't want people to do it out of obligation. You want them to do it because they're committed to your cause.
My mission statement. Biggest mistake I see on people, because I get them all the time, because people send me proposals all the time. These 2-page mission statements. I'm like, excuse me?
Either that or they're all fluff. They're just theoretical rhetoric.
But a mission statement really is about a paragraph long, correct?
Correct. We are working with a client right now. He has been applying for his nonprofit charter since 2009. He still hasn't gotten it. Until 2 days ago, I asked him, let me see your mission. The mission statement is 1 page, and I read the page and told him, if I was the IRS, I would not clear you on this. This is not to help anybody. And by the way, it's also so general, so you are not saying anything. That's why you have not gotten it from 2009. Another mission statement, 3 sentences, like Raul, the love to all communities that you'll be talking to. The mission has to be believable. It has to show who it is you are trying to help. It can even be 2 sentences, and you still can get it. So it's not the size. It's what it is you are planning to do for the community, and does the government agree? And do I, as a funder, agree that there's a need? It's not the size. But normally the average, really good mission statements, they're usually not more than 5 sentences long.
So it's your 17-second elevator pitch, pretty much.
That's exactly what it is.
Right.
That's exactly what it is.
And surprisingly, there's common sense involved. I mean, the IRS is not stupid when it comes to granting the approval for the nonprofit. If they see that someone really doesn't have it together, they're going to make sure that these people get it together before they get them approved. So they don't want to see a 2-page mission statement. They don't want to see a mission statement that's nothing more than hype and theory and rhetoric. They want to see something that's going to actually say, okay, these people have given it enough thought to be able to at least take it to the next step, which is in my camp now, giving them approval, and now it's up to them to go out and develop something.
So I've got my letter. I know what my mission statement is, my 3 to 5 sentences that in that 3 to 5 sentences basically say what it is that we do. Now, what's next?
Okay, at that point, stop by and say hello, and then I can show you the checklist.
Okay.
Because there's a checklist that makes up the system. We live in a very complex world today. Get organized. Here is what I want to advise. Here is what, at this point, here is what I need you to do. You stop by and say hello to me over coffee, and here is what I'm going to advise you. Number 1, you have your charter checklist. Number 2, I'm going to ask you, now that you have your charter, how are you getting the word out? Exposure is very important. Who knows you exist? That's number 2, okay? The most powerful way I've seen to take care of number 2 is website. So I'm going to tell you, get a decent website. You got to get the word out, because you can have your nonprofit sit in the shoebox. Nobody knows you. It will do you no good. Okay. If you tell me you took care of that, then we go to number 3. Let's do a budget to show that you understand where you are going, who you are going to help, and how much it will cost.
Now, in this budget, am I including office space, telephone, stationery?
The budget is going to start with you, the executive director. Then it go down to all your staff. Next, overhead. There is no organization that has no funds. There's no organization without a computer. There's no organization without liability insurance. Okay? There's no organization that doesn't have accounting. It should have all the elements of what makes up a business. Because there, you have what I call a roadmap. Now, number 4 is get a decent board. 5 and 6 is now to go ahead and develop what I call the agency plan. The agency's plan is, how do you plan to operate.
Well, we've walked you through some beginning steps today. You've got your letter from the IRS. Now you know that you have to find a board of directors, and then you decide if you're going to be the chairman of the board. That means that you're passionate about it, but you don't want to do the day-to-day work. If you're the executive director, you got the passion because maybe you created it. Like me, I'm going to be the executive director because I created this baby. This has been my baby for 15 years.
Now you have a career.
Right. Now I can take that next step where I want to go and build this into the dream that I see, this huge building and this after-school program in this school. And I mean, the visions are all there.
As long as you know that is what you are going to do every day.
Right.
You have to give it the commitment.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
I can still do radio. Don't worry. It only takes me one day to come here and do this.
And most people, will have that vision, but they won't have the wherewithal to be able to accomplish it. Mm-hmm. You do. You have the relationships, you have the prestige, you have the background, you have the history. So for all the people who are out there listening, Josefa is a great example of someone who is now readapting herself, helping her organization, and taking it to the next level.
Taking it to the next level. And we will grow right here on the radio so that you can see me as the example. In the next show, in part 4, I hope to have my board picked so I can describe my board and the people on my staff. And we'll walk you through step by step how you should pick your board. What should you look for in people? What should you look for in staff? And at that point, I'll be able to read my mission statement. I'll have that developed. Well, I already have it developed, but we'll actually talk about my mission statement, and we will talk about past performance and the projection of the projects and where my foundation is going. And I'm hoping that by doing this, I'm an example to you so that you can see what you need to be doing to get your nonprofit or the nonprofit that you are working for or the nonprofit that you have the vision of in your mind. Make it come to life so that it lives and breathes the way you want it to. FixMyNonprofit.com is the website for Norm and Gatanga if you would like to speak with them. Amazing gentlemen. I'm telling you, I wouldn't put my foundation will never be in anyone else's hands. It's found its home.
May I
right
share a
here.
phone number?
Oh, most definitely.
Our phone number in Orange County is 949-667-1434. And again, the website is fixmynonprofit.com. And we're pretty much available at your disposal to help you get to wherever you want to go.
Let's give that phone number one more time.
It's 949-667-1434.
And of course, all of that information will be up on my webpage at hot923.com, keyword Josefa. And you can also go to YouTube. And if you missed show number 1 and show number 2, you're just coming in on show number 3, go back and listen to show number 1 and show number 2 so that you can see we've walked you through the entire process of who should start a nonprofit, who shouldn't, how to do it, how the steps that you need to go through. Now we're structuring the nonprofit. In show number 4, again, we'll look at my board of directors. We'll look at the positions and the direction that the nonprofit is going. Norman Gatanga, thank you so much again for a fabulous show. FixMyNonprofit.com is the website. Nonprofit Development Alliance is the company. 949-667-1434. And keep an ear out. In December, we're hoping to have a clinic for you nonprofits out there that need some help. We're going to find a place, bring you down there and meet face to face and help you get your nonprofit to where it needs to be. Gentlemen, thank you again so much.
My pleasure.
Don't go away. There's more coming up. There's a huge event. Movies by kids, for kids. And the Heroes of Hope Walk for Brain Tumor Research. It's all coming up next on the Community Review, Hot 92.3.